let's talk about SSDs, specifically size versus performance. So this is something, it still comes up often enough. I see it all the time, and I think it's something worth talking about. So first of all, I will never recommend buying higher performance over capacity. That even includes if you have to choose between a really large 2.5 and an expensive fast M.2. That's not as common of an issue as it used to be, and typically the largest M.2s, typically the largest 2.5 SATAs are so close to the price of a comparable capacity M.2. It's if you have the M.2 port, it's not really worth it to do that anymore. But it used to be. It used to be that the largest, cheapest SSDs would be 2.5 SATAs versus the smaller but much faster M.2 drives. So now it's also worth mentioning that. So I have tested most newer games on actual hard drives, and most newer games will run fine on a modern hard drive. Now, I'm not talking about a 500 gig drive from 2010, okay? I'm talking about a modern, newer, high capacity, high performance drive. For example, the 18 terabyte Seagate Exos drives that I have, I think 15 of total. Those drives, I find I can typically run modern games without issues. Even games that state that they require an SSD actually run fine on those. So I find that the right way to go with drives, and by the way, so before I say that, before I tell you what I think is the right drive configuration, I will say for most people, I know there are specialty circumstances or specialty use cases out there that are less common, but for the average day-to-day person, buying a super fast SSD versus a mid-spec SSD, you're talking about something like booting in, maybe on the slowest, if configured properly on, say, the slowest SATA drives, you're going to be looking at booting at in seconds. 30 seconds or under, probably a lot under, probably like 15 seconds, something like that, if it's configured right, if you have your system configured for a fast boot. Versus, say, 5 seconds on the SSD or on the M.2. Now, is that 3 times as fast? Yes. But do you really care? Do you actually care that the drive or that the computer that booted, and was useful in 5 seconds versus 15? I'm gonna wager a no in almost all cases. So if you can choose between, because the fastest drives, you look at the fastest drives out there, the fastest M.2 drives, those drives cost, I was looking, and for like a 4 terabyte, you're getting up into the $500, $600, $700 price range for some of those really fast PCI Express 5.0 drives. They get really expensive. So for that money, what you're better off to do is buy a fast mid-spec M.2. So, and this is assuming that you have a reasonably modern system, by the way. Okay, so something not more than 7, 8, 9. I guess 4th gen. Some of those boards, some of the Z97 boards had 1st generation M.2 NVMe on them, so maybe that old. Definitely like X99 would have it. So if you've got a reasonably modern system, I believe the way to go is you get a medium fast performance M.2. So you're talking. A perfect example of this would be the Crucial P3, not even the P3 Plus, just the standard P3. I think it's rated like 3500 read-write or 3500 write or 3500 read, 3000 write. It's something like that. It's fast enough. It's more than fast enough for anyone. I slap one of those suckers in all of my computers. So you get one of those that's maybe a 1 or 2 terabyte. Then you get and this is assuming that you have, let's say you're choosing between, say, a 4 terabyte PCIe 5.0 and spending the money on more lower performance drives. So you get a PCIe 4, like the P3, like I said, like a 3500 speed SSD M.2. You get that in 1 or 2 terabytes. You can pick that up for, I'm not going to name a specific price, but under $100. Definitely under $100. Black Friday, I think we were seeing them down as low as 50. A year or so ago, we were seeing them even less than that. We're seeing some cheap models as low as like $35. Hopefully those days come back. They will come back eventually. So anyway, so you get a mid-spec 1 or 2 terabyte, and you get a large M.2 or SATA, whatever, but a large 4 terabyte. So you get like same thing. Don't go high performance. Get a Crucial P3 is a great drive. There's a few others. I think Crucial is generally the cheapest name brand in most cases. Like good, recognized, name brand, top tier storage manufacturer. I find the Crucials are usually the most bang for the buck in most cases. So you get a 4 terabyte of that. That's going to run you somewhere in the two, depending on the deal you find, anywhere from $2 to $230, I think, at market value right now. So you're at probably around 300, give or take, for your 2 SSDs. And then and I know there are the never hard drivers out there, but I'm going to recommend maybe like a 10 to 12 terabyte high performance, maybe if you can get your hands on one for cheap or recertified through Amazon, I would get Seagate Enterprise, like Seagate Exos. So you want like a Seagate Exos 10, 12, 14, whatever the best deal is. Try to keep it around like say $100, $125, which I know some people say, oh, that's a lot of money for a hard drive and get SSDs for that price. But keep in mind, that's a lot of storage. And my recommendation would be keep all of your super modern new games on the 4 terabyte. So you use the 1 terabyte as your boot drive. I do like separating my boot drive from my my storage or my game storage. So you have your boot drive, then you have your Steam library for your newest, not fastest, but your highest performance requirement, newer games. You throw those on the 4 terabyte. Other than a few edge cases, that's going to fit almost everything you need. And then you put your backlog of old stuff, maybe, I don't know, 2020 and older, which is going to be, I'm going to bet for the vast majority of people, I'm going to bet that the majority of their games are going to be 2020 or older. And you load that whole backlog on your hard drive. If you're like me, you like having your whole games library right at your fingertips and not waiting. I don't like to wait, so I put enough storage for all of my games on all of my primary gaming machines. And that's going to run you, so let's say let's say a max of 150. So 150 plus, let's say 75 for your boot drive. So that's 225 plus another, let's say 225 for your 4 terabyte M.2. That's 500. 225, 450. So that's 450. That is a lot of money to spend on storage. But that's what a top tier drive is going to cost you by itself without the large storage drive and the medium performance large SSD and the medium performance small SSD. So if you look at it like that. Now, if you can't afford that much, I would say your best bet for your storage configuration, assuming you're not just totally hamstrung by budget, is going to be a single 4 terabyte M.2. Anything I'm recommending Crucial. I like Crucial drives. I know a lot of other people do too. They seem to be the best bang for the buck. But one way or the other, a 4 terabyte mid-spec M.2 is going to be the way to go if you can only have one drive. But definitely do not waste the money on a small high-performance drive. Do not spend $200 on a whatever it is, 15,000, read-write M.2 for, 1 terabyte when you can get a 4 terabyte that's going to meet your needs performance and storage-wise far more effectively. So anyway, I hope you guys find this interesting and informative and useful, and thanks for watching the video.